So good morning and welcome everybody to today's Thursday Live. My name is Denise Armenio, and I am going to be doing a demo and scan with the Genius app. And I just want to welcome everybody that is here live, and for those that are joining on the replay, welcome also, and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you all had a lovely holiday. Before we get started, there are some questions that just came in, so I just wanted to, I'm going to address those first. I just will log in first, so I am just going to set this up as a Thursday live session. And so as you can see, even though I have a little typo in there, because I've already done a Thursday live session, I can just grab it now and start a new session. If I wanted to update the notes on it, I can hit edit, but I'm just going to hit start new session. Okay, and this is where we would put a voice prompt in, where we would have the client repeat the vowels A, E, I, O, U. We would press this little microphone here and press that and record. I'm going to bypass that today since this is for the group. But you could do it with the group and have everybody on mic and use and record everybody saying the vowels. But just for time's sake, I'm just going to bypass that today. So I'm just going to skip that. And we can skip the photo as well. Now the Genius will work without a recording and without a picture. However, it is recommended that you do use a voice recording and take a selfie for best results. Okay, but I'm just going to skip past this. And here we have the energetic affirmation. This is where you can enter in an affirmation that you'd like to use, and the Genius will translate that into a frequency, and that frequency is then overlaid every time you run a session, every time you run frequencies within this particular session. So I'm going to select yes and just type in the affirmation that I like to use. So all energies are transmuted into the frequency of your love. And so it is, and I'm just going to double check to make sure I have no typos, and then you can just hit OK. So from here, you're just going to hit where it says begin session, but it's going to do an analysis first. So I'm just going to that. Okay, so I'm going to first just mention that there are 3 different trays or 3 different ways that you can run frequencies. One of the questions that somebody just asked me has to do with the timer, so I just want to address that first before I get distracted. So there is a quick balance, which you can see down at the bottom. There is nothing to drag and drop in the quick balance. That is, if you select quick balance, the Genius will run all the reds and blues that are seen on the page that you can scroll to. And the timer for the quick balance is over here on the right-hand side. So you just place the cursor or your finger if you're using an iPad or your phone to drag and drop. You would just move the timer to the desired minutes that you want. If you want a set time that is either less than a minute or between, you would put the timer on 0 minutes, and that is your manual timer selection. And you have to touch the screen in order to stop it. If you select a desired amount of time, like 1 minute, should you end it before the minute, it will not calculate a average percent rectification. So just make sure if you do have it on a set time that you don't touch the screen or pause out, because you won't get a percent rectification. The other, when you use a quick zap, the timer for the quick zap is on the bottom of this like box here. You can see it on the bottom, and it works the same way that the quick balance timer works. And for this, you would drag and drop items into, you can drag them up. You don't have to have this box open to drag and drop things in, but you would need to have it open in order to use the timer on there. So I do have it on 0 minutes. You have a clear all if you wanted to clear it out. You can also X items out if there was maybe one that you didn't want. You can X that out as well. Now the main hold tray is similar to the quick zap. So basically anything that you drag into the quick zap, the Genius will play the frequency for that specific item, and to help in order to help bring that specific item that is in the quick zap tray into balance. And the difference between that and the main hold tray is that when you drag items into the main hold tray, you're then it's then going to bring you to another screen called Progressive Insights, and we'll look at that in just a moment. But what the Genius does with the main hold tray is that it uses an algorithm that looks at the relationship of all the items that are in the tray. So in other words, and why this is so important is because you might have an item that maybe in the yellow or green that you didn't want, that looked like it was okay and didn't really need balancing. But when that item is surrounded by other frequencies, it might throw it out of balance, and it would be important for you to balance it. So we'll get more into that when I start showing you how to work with the main hold tray. But I just wanted to address that with you. When you get to the main hold tray, if I were to add something right now, you can see this is the Progressive Insights. We could do an analysis. I'm not going to do that right now at this point, but the timer again for the Progressive Insights is up here with this little toggle switch. So that is how you set the timer for that. I am going to back out, and I can empty that tray again by hitting the clear all. So Omar, you did ask the question on the timer. Did that address it for you?
Yes, thank you, Denise.
Okay, great. Okay, so now that we went over that, let me just talk about this little tab in the center. This is really just for information. It has nothing to, it doesn't run any scans through any of these items. It just actually is another way of seeing all the information viewed and displayed. So in other words, if I were to click, let's just click on Biofield, what is showing up is 14% of 14.3% of the items are blue, 28.6 yellow, 57.1% are red. So there are actually no green that are showing up as the group in the items that are in the Biofield. So if you wanted to also look at that, let's say for your overview where you're seeing all the items in the system overview, now you have a little different perspective, and you can see that 35.7% of the items in the system overview are showing as blue. and 10.7 are showing as red. I will go into explaining in just a second on what that blue and red and yellow and green represent, so you'll have a better understanding of that. I just wanted to show you that this just gives you a different breakdown and a way you can view the information, but there isn't any way to scan from this. This is just information here. So the Genius works on a numerical value system. It goes from 0 to 777, although you will never see a value of 0 on the Genius on any results. It really just goes from 1 would be the lowest number, and 777 would be the highest number. That range is divided into 4 groups or ranges, with the lowest range going from 1 to 200, and that range is represented by the color blue. And this blue range or low range is observed to be chronic energetic disturbances, which means that these items that are showing in blue have been out of balance for a longer period of time. These items are also can be referred to as stagnant energy or under energy. And what we do know is that the items in blue in this lower range are causing a crisis on the body. So it is important to work with these blue items. They can also, many times these are going to be your root causes or your underlying causes to the different symptoms that you're experiencing. The next range goes from 201 to 450, and that is your green range. And then you have the next range would go from 451 to 600, and that's represented by the color yellow. And the highest range goes from 601 to 777. That is represented by the color red. And this range is observed to be acute energetic disturbances, meaning that the items in this range are in the present time currently out of balance. So it's happening right now. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a long-term issue with it, but those items in the red could be causing heat or inflammation. It could also be referred to as over energy. And also the items in this high range are causing a stress on the body. So in that present moment, it's causing some kind of a stress on your body. It is important to work with these as well, because if you don't clear them and you don't balance them, I shouldn't say clear isn't really the right word. It's better to say balance or harmonize it. If you don't balance or harmonize them, then they could turn into something on a chronic basis. So I hope that it better explains it. I also want to make sure everybody understands that items that are represented that are in the low range or the high range, it's not diagnostic in the allopathic sense. So if something shows up, let's say that there's a vitamin or a mineral and it's blue and it's a low number, it doesn't mean it's that you're deficient in it. And a high number doesn't mean you have too much of it. It just means it's out of balance. And blue is going to tell you that it's been out of balance for a longer period of time. And a high number is going to tell you that it's out of balance today. Now, so the next question that I usually always get is, well, we know what the red and the blues are, but what does the yellow and the green mean? So for those that are starting out and they're new to the Genius, I would work with just the reds and the blues. But as you get a little bit more experienced, and you will find that practitioners who've been using the Genius for a longer period of time tend to keep a tighter range on what they work with that they would consider balanced or a more normal range. So for example, for me, anything between 400 and 600, I consider that in my balanced or harmonized range, and anything outside that range, I will work with. So given that information and working where 400 and 600 would be okay, that means that the yellows are within that normal range. And for the green, the top 50 would also be in that normal or balanced range. But the lower portion of the greens for me, since they border the blue, would be more items that if they are not balanced and harmonized, could become those blue items. I hope that makes sense for everybody. If you have any question there, please let me know. And I'm happy to answer that for you. Just give me a second here. I just want to make sure I have my chat all the way open. The next thing let's see, there's a question here. Elise, you're new. Well, Elise, you're in the right place. So I hope this is making some sense for you and you can understand. You have a little bit more understanding with what we just went over. I see you gave a thumbs up, so that is great. And Giles, I hope I'm saying your name right. Can we buy the libraries in French to integrate them into the application? Not all libraries are in French. You would have to look through the website to see which libraries are in French. I don't know that answer specifically, so I can try to find out that question for you. If you email me, it might be better, and I can help you with that. You can email me at Denise Armenio4@gmail.com. I'll actually put that in the chat so everybody can see it. Whoops, my caps are on. Okay. And then the next question is it realistic to get to a point where an individual won't have any red or blue panels? No, I don't really think that's realistic because the frequencies are going to interact with different frequencies all the time. So sometimes when the genius does the analysis in the beginning, it's just looking at an individual frequency as it's compared to the client's body. As we get to the main hold tray, then items are it's looking at the relationship. So an item that may be, let's say, yellow in the beginning, how it interacts with other items or other frequencies is always going to change, because it's just like, I'd like to think of it as if you're having a conversation, maybe with two people having a conversation and everything is going great. If another person joins in or a fourth person joins in, maybe the energy among those four people aren't the same anymore and the conversation doesn't go as well. And you can instinctively normally tell, if the conversation is going well or isn't. It's kind of the same thing. I hope that answers your question. So now the next thing I just want to show everybody is you do have these arrows on the side over here. And those are drop downs, and you can see the different line items that are in each what we would call panel or library. It also, you can still see the numerical value that has that the genius came up with. And these little like magnifying glass is for information. So if you were to click on it, it does tell you sensitivity to cellular frequencies daily. So it's saying that, you know, on a daily basis, you're having sensitivities to that. And if we close this, whoops. Okay, so if you could also click on the line. So if you don't click that arrow, you can click on the line and now you have another view. So now it's color coded. So it makes it easier to see at a quick glance items that need to be balanced. You know, those that are blue that have been out of balance for a longer period of time, or the red ones that are out of balance today. And then again, whatever yellows or greens that you're seeing. The next thing I wanted to show everyone is down in the bio field. If you go down to aura, this is where you're going to get an aura picture. So you can click on that line. And now again, it says begin session, but it's going to do the analysis. So you can okay, so here we can select hide avatar and it gives us a better view of the whole aura picture. What we're looking for on a very general basic level is bright, vibrant colors. So bright meaning almost neon looking colors. So this green is a really healthy green. And the reason we're looking for neon kind of colors is it shows that there's more light. So if you think of light versus dark, you would want the colors to have more light in it. Anything that, so light would resonate more as a positive and dark more negative. And so when I say positive or negative, the 7 colors that are represented, again, this is very basic. And as you use the Genius more, you can expand more on this, but on a very basic level, the 7 colors that are represented are the 7 colors of the chakras. So again, if it's a very light, bright color, I shouldn't like a bright green or neon color, it's representing more of the positive attributes of that chakra. And on the darker side, it would be more of the negative attributes of that chakra. For those that have more in-depth intuitive or psychic abilities, you can see sometimes you can get more of a feel of what it is. And any of those gut feelings I would definitely go with. But again, those are things that you develop over time while you use the Genius. You can also, it says switch to aura field. This gives you a different representation of the aura. And on this field, what I generally like to see is that all 4 colors, all 4 corners are filled with color. That is going to tell you that you're grounded and in your body. So what I would be seeing here is that for the most part, this group is very ungrounded and not within our body. So that is one thing that I would definitely will work on today with the group to try to work with that. I will say that, and I'm just gonna, you can't see it as well on this version, on this representation of this aura because it is mostly light. But when you're using the MacBook Air or Pro, which I'm using right now, there tends to be like a light spot in the center. That's just a formatting thing and it doesn't mean anything. So if you wonder why there's that bright, like white kind of in the center, it doesn't mean anything. If you look at it on your iPhone or iPad, you may not see that like white spot. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that. I'm not going to spend too much time here because looking at the aura can really, I just want to give a general overview. Again, also looking at this version of the aura, which is the aura field, you want to see bright, vibrant colors, ideally one color, and that would be for both the aura field and aura layers version, although you would still want to see the layers. So because that is our dimensionality, how far out we're going. And the different layers represent the different layers of the aura. So you can get more information by that. If you're not familiar with it, you can always Google it and get more information there. But for now, we're just going to go back to the system overview page. Are there any questions before I move on with that? Everybody okay? And okay, so I'm going to move on. So what I would like everybody to do that's watching, since this is a group session, if you can just tune in and check in if you have any pain, physical pain anywhere or emotional pain, can you just write in the chat what it is and where it is and rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being severe. The reason being is so that you can see if it shifts before we run any frequencies to when we're done with this session. So that will be helpful for yourself, because sometimes we forget what the pain level is if we don't think about it before we start working. So we have Lisa saying she has pain in the hips when walking, and it's a 5. Okay, great. So, and Barbara, neuropathy in feet and legs, which is also a 5. Great. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add? And I will focus in on these areas of pain when we start going. Jennifer has a headache. What level is it, Jennifer? 5. Okay. And anything else? So let me talk about what my step 1 is. So, well, first, before we do the step 1, you can see that there are the 3 categories: body, mind, and biofield. And within each of those 3 categories, there are some subcategories, and each of those subcategories has information contained within it. So your mind has some other information down here, and then your biofield. Now, my first step, if you don't have the bioterrain library master branch, what I recommend is that you add all the panels from the biofield into your main hold tray, as well as the vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. And the reason that this is my step 1 is because you're priming the vessel or your body with the foundational things. We always want our aura field to be as strong as possible, because that's like our force field. You can think of it as a force field, kind of like in Star Trek. And our cells need to have all its essential minerals, vitamins, and amino acids. So we want to make sure that we're balancing that first before we work on balancing any of the symptoms. So I'm just going to go into the custom library so you can also see how that works. I'm going to grab the library from the Biotrain. And to get to custom libraries, anybody can create their own libraries. You can purchase them, or if you have friends that also have the Genius, you can share libraries between each other. But and if you do have any of those libraries, that's when you see the custom libraries banner. If you're doing a trial and you don't have any libraries yet, you won't see that custom libraries banner, but we're working with the same app and software. This is just taking a little bit of time because I have over 3,000 libraries, so I have quite a few in here. So I just want to, so these are all the library panels. Now, don't be alarmed when you see a lot of red, especially when you have as many library panels as I have, is because I have over 3,000 libraries, but there's only 777 numbers. So you're going to have overlap in those numbers. And that's the same when we start looking at all the different line items too. Now, when you see this black tab in the center, here it becomes an advanced search bar. So we can do a couple of different things. Right now, all of my libraries are ordered from high to low, but we can change that by clicking low to high. And now you can see some of the different panels that are showing up as more chronic out of balance. So we can see different things in here. We can also sort it alphabetically. If you were looking for a specific library panel, you can look at it that way. I like looking at it usually from 0 to 100 because I'm always want to work mostly with the items that are in the low range, since those are going to be our underlying causes or root causes. But to get back to looking for my step 1, I would go into the search bar and I would type in bioterrain. And the bioterrain master branch has 37 panels in it. So that is why you're seeing a lot of bioterrain here. But it is the first panel that says vessel priming frequencies begin. That is the one that would be as close to how I just described if you don't have it. So you can, there are 2 ways to enter all the information from this panel. You can click on the line, and sometimes my trackpad picks it up and sometimes it doesn't. But if it doesn't highlight, then I can just click on the line and open it. And now, because I want all of these items to be balanced, I'm going to add all of the red, yellow, green, and blues. So you can see that gives me 187 items in there. I just want to show you what I'm talking about. Sometimes if I grab another library, it will pick it up. So let's just say bacteria, and that's not highlighting. Am I going to get any? There we go. I don't know. Sometimes it's a little bit picky. So you can see how this is highlighted. I will drop it down actually to the main hold tray. And I can just drop that down, and it will bring in the library title name as well as what was in that library. So it was only 3 items. So I just added it in. So now I can go to the play button, which is on like the line for the main hold tray, and that will bring us into the progressive insights. And now again, we need to press begin session because it's going to analyze all the items in this tray. And now it's looking at the relationship of all these 191 or 192 items that are there. Okay, so now the first thing I do is I will always start my timer on 1 minute. I like to work with 1 minute first. Longer is not always better. So I like to start with short bursts first to see how we do so that we don't overstimulate the body. And now that I have the timer set, I'm going to select all. So I can, when I hit the all button, all the items you can see with the check mark have been selected, and we can hit play. So now we can see at the bottom, on the black, on the very bottom, it says average percent rectification. So the average percent rectification for this was 27%. That would be considered a good rectification, anything between 20 and 40%. Really, any percent above 0 is a positive movement, but between 20 and 40%, I generally think of as a good rectification. Above 40% is considered excellent. Now, the other thing I like to look at is the 3 percentages that make up the average percent rectification. So I always like to look at the low, which in this case is 24, and the high, and both the harmony and alignment are both 29%. And I don't like that range to be greater than 20. The reason being is that if that range gets bigger, it becomes less stable. So although the average percent rectification is only 20%, 27% here, it's actually very stable because we have two that are at 29% and the low at 24. There's a small range of 5 in that. So that's not bad. I would like to see that a little bit higher. So what I would do in this instance is I would deselect the all, and now I would just select the lows and the highs. So the mediums are not selected now, and I would run this down, turn the timer down to 0 minutes and run this for 30 seconds. Okay, so great. So now you can see we got a little pop-up and chime that says excellent, that we've responded positively because it's over 40%, which is great. It's actually at 61%. And here again, I'm going to check the 3 percentages, and the low is 54% and the high is 71. So that is within that 20% range. So I'm really happy with that. Now you could choose to do, you could either stop here or you could hit rescan. Now, when you're working with the quantum field, everything is a probability. You can't get an exact, we don't know exactly which items have balanced and which ones are still out of balance, but the Genius uses its algorithms and whatever mathematical formulas it uses to predict. This is after running the Genius for 1 minute and 30 seconds in those 2 separate scans. This is how it's reordered everything. So that's what that rescan button that I just pressed means. So now it's reordered everything. in what the genius is saying are the new highs, mediums, and lows. So we could again just select the lows and the highs here, and I would run those for 30 seconds again. Okay, so now we can see that the average percent rectification is 12%. Now it's still, the range is between the three is low, so that is good in that sense, but the average percent rectification isn't exactly as high as I would want it to be. Because this is a demo, I'm not going to run the frequencies again, but one option that you may want to do if we had more time here is deselect the highs and just work with the lows. Maybe I'll just work with the lows for 5 seconds here and see if we can get that up. Okay, and just 5 seconds did get that percent rectification up to 56%, which is great. And we can see it goes from 48 to 67. So that is within that 20% range too. So, or range of 20. So that's great. Now you could do that again for the highs. I'm not going to do it in this situation, but I think you get the idea. So now I'm just going to back arrow, and now I'm going to back arrow again to get to the system hold page. And now I can just click on this up arrow towards the left, and I can clear out all the items in the tray. And so now we would begin with the step 2 of the protocol that I use. So for the step 2, I like to go to the general overview. To get to the general overview, you're just going to press up top or touch your screen to get to the general overview. And what happens when you go to the general overview is that you're going to have a view of all the items on the system overview page. And instead of seeing them all in the different categories and subcategories, it's going to put all the line items into one numerical list. So you're going to see, however you sort it, all your lows to highs or highs to lows. But the other thing it also does, for those of you who has custom libraries, it will also add the custom libraries into this list. And this to me is really powerful because this is going to give you the opportunity to work with and see all the items that could be considered like your root cause or underlying cause for the frequencies that we have available to us. So here are all the items. I'm not going to scroll through them because there's thousands and thousands of line items for me since I have so many libraries. I will reverse the view so we can see the low items first. So what we are seeing is that the bladder meridian 0.12 has been chronically out of balance for the group. So we could always go back and look at what that specific point means in the regular system overview page. But for right now, I'm just really, I don't try to make sense of everything that's showing up because it's not always going to make sense. And you'll really just drive yourself crazy if you try to find logic to everything. We can absorb frequencies from other people. There can be crossover from past lives frequencies. So it may not make sense to us in this present moment. But what we do know is that these frequencies are out of balance. And for me, that's what I focus on, is just trying to bring the line items that are out of balance back into balance. Because what happens is the more that we have that are in balance, the closer we're getting our bodies into being into homeostasis. And that is how the body can then heal itself. So if you click on this plus button, it gives you a little added items that we can press that we see just for the general overview. And it allows us to add the bottom 50, which are your low values. So I'm going to add those. And I'm also going to add the top 50. So again, if we look, we change the view. These would be the items that are stressed in the moment. So I've just added those top 50. Now those, don't forget, are from all of the libraries that I have, and I have over 3,000. So there's going to be more information in here, or who doesn't have any libraries, additional libraries to work with. The next thing I'd like to do, though, is to remove all the libraries. And now I can add in all the blues from the system overview page. And I can also add in all the red items from the system overview page. And for me, this lets me know that I'm working with everything that I really needed to work with from that system overview page before I start working with specific symptoms from the client. So usually I don't like to have more than 250 items in the tray, but because this is a demo, we can work with a little bit more. So this is at 337, and we can hit the little play button here. Okay. And so again, we just want to click this red button to begin the analysis. Okay. And again, I'm going to move the timer to 1 minute and select all, and we can hit play. Okay, so excellent. So we have an average percent rectification of 51%, and the low percentage is 47, the high is 60. So that is right within that 20 range that I'm happy with. So that is really great. And now what I would do, because this is above the 40%, we can hit reset. And then I'm going to select the lows and the highs. And I'm going to put the timer on 0 and just run that for 30 seconds. Okay, so when we run that now, the average percent rectification is 28%. And it is actually a little bit over that 20. I would run this again, but again, it's a demo and I want to get to working with some of your symptoms that you've put in the chat. I do want everybody to check in though, only because I only do that because so that people can see if they've had any shifts after these first two steps. Often people will notice some shifts, not always, and that's okay. But if you've had any shift, if you can just put it in the comments, that would be great. I'm just going to back out of here, clear the main hold tray. And so both Jennifer and Barbara have reduced by one number. So they went from 5s to 4, which any shift down is great. So, you know, if it's on a scale of 0 to 10, it's each movement is about 10% improvement. So that is great. So now the next thing I would go to work with is I'm going to go into the custom libraries again, and I'm going to put in, I have a pain library that I'm going to add those frequencies. So I'm just going to click on it. I was able to, actually, I'm not going to do that, which is, it went up. I'm just going to add in the reds, blues, and I think I'm going to add in the greens as well. And now we can go to, and I'm going to add, look at this, at the human body structure. This one is showing up on top. We'll look at it when we get to the whole master branch for this, which is human body structure. And I first like to just look at what's showing up on the blues, which may be the lowest, the ones that are out of balance for the longest period of time. So we have some cranial nerves, hip muscles. So we had one of these was for the hip. So for, let's look at that, and we can add in, I'm just going to add in all these items for the hip. And let's add in the cranial as well. We had a headache in there, so there may be some stress. So I'm going to add in all the cranial nerves as well. The skin, interestingly, is showing up. Oh, great. Elise is saying after the first two protocols that you're feeling a complete resolution at this time. So your hip pain went away from a 5 to a 0 from those first two steps. That's amazing. And you're Barbara, you're saying that the skin is applicable to you, so that's great. So I'm going to add that in as well. And I'm sure since it's showing up that it's going to be helpful for the group as well. The eye is the other one that is, the smooth muscle in the eye is the other one that's showing up, and I am going to add this in. Applicable was a new pain, but for a couple of weeks now. So, okay, great. So I'm glad that this is proving to be helpful. I just added in the eye muscle in there, and you can see that there are a few of those eye muscles in there. So let's see what happens here. The other thing, I'm going to go back, whoops, in the custom libraries. The other thing I'm going to add in here, I think we had headache, oh, feet and legs. Let me just look at that. I didn't get the feet and legs, so hold on. So we have feet, bones of the feet. Foot is showing up yellow. I just want to see if it shows up. Oh, here we go. Legs and foot muscles. So I'm going to add those in. And then, am I missing anything in here? Okay, so we have your legs and feet. Sorry, I was losing my train of thought on what I wanted to work on next. And then the next thing, whoops, I just want to work on is the group didn't appear to be grounded. So I am going to add in the reds and the blues. These are the Alaskan gem elixirs. I love this panel, and these will help to stabilize and ground. So I've just added in the reds and the blues here. So now we're going to go and hit the play button so we can run the analysis. All right. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I always start with 1 minute, and I'm going to select all and hit play. Okay, so we're at 40%. We didn't get the little chime because it's not above 40%, but it's at 40%, and the low percentage is 32, and it goes, and the high is 50. So we are still within that 20. What I would do here is I would just move the timer down to 0 minutes, and I'm going to deselect the all, and I'm just going to select the highs and the lows and just run those for 30 seconds. Okay, it's at 26%. It is very tight here between 24 and 29, so I'm happy about that. We are running out of time, so I'm not going to run that longer. If this wasn't a demo, I would run that a little bit longer. But let's just go back now and just see what our aura is looking like. And for anybody who did put in their range, if you just want to check in and see how you're doing. Elise is saying for the 20% delta, which two variable are you referring to? I'm not sure I'm following.
Sure.
Jennifer.
You have 4 variables at the bottom of the page: harmony, alignment, energy flow, and then average rectification. So I didn't exactly know which two you were referring to.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the harmony the average percent rectification, that's the average of these, of the harmony, alignment, and energy flow. So I like to look at the harmony, or whichever one is the lowest percentage. In this case, the harmony is 24%, and the high percentage is 29%. So I don't like that range to be greater than 20.
Got it. Very, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, sometimes you might see like really wonky numbers, like harmony might be like at 8 and alignment could be at 55. And maybe energy flow is at 60%. I'm just making these numbers up. And it could give you an average percent rectification above 41%. And so you might think, oh, well, that's excellent. But if that range is that great from like 80 to 60, any energy that's like going to come into your field can quickly throw everything out of balance, so it might not hold as long. So that's why I'd like to keep, that range tight within 20%, even if the average percent rectification was high. Does that make sense?
Very, very helpful. I can keep up with you now. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad that makes more sense. Okay, so let's just look at the aura now. And I'm gonna hit the begin session or begin analysis. Okay, so we see different colors in here. Some things are brighter, some things are darker. We do see some brighter colors in here. Let's switch to the aura field. This is what I'm really happy to see, because before we can see that we weren't really grounded or in our bodies, because it was almost no color in here. So now we can see color coming in, which is good. Hopefully everybody who is here right now is feeling a little bit more grounded or centered in their body than they were feeling before. Even if you didn't have any aches or pains, hopefully you're a little bit more in your body and you're feeling better. When you do look at this, just so you understand it, this is a mirrored version since it's on the screen. Energy moves from left to right. But when you're looking at this, the energy is coming in from the right and moving out on the left. So down here where there is no color, that energy is leaving, and you can see that there's color coming in. And so let me just answer these last questions. Oh, how often should we zap ourselves? There are two different ways you can do that. Sometimes when you say zap, I guess you are really meaning run frequencies. Sometimes, because of my busy schedule, I'll run a scan for myself on Sundays, but I'll send the frequencies to my Quanta capsule, and then I can just replay the frequencies from the session on Sunday throughout the week. So I don't have to run a full scan again every time. This way I'll listen to it for a minute or two, a few times a day. I would caution people, if they work on themselves in the evening, sometimes, not for everyone. I do know that this applies to myself. I cannot listen to frequencies at night or while I'm sleeping. It overstimulates me and I can't really fall asleep. And there have been instances where I thought I turned off the Genius and it didn't, and it ran through the night. And sure enough, if I got up in the middle of the night, if I couldn't fall asleep and I saw that it was running, if I turned it off right after I turned it off, I was able to fall back to sleep again. So do be mindful of that and check that. Sometimes you might have a client that, even if you work on them during the day, they may not sleep well that night. They will catch up the following night. I do find, though, for most people, that any sessions during the day, it may fatigue you slightly, but you will sleep like a rock star at night. That's just been my experience with myself and my clients. So I hope you find that helpful. And Elise, this was a very well paced and informative session. Thank you so much. Can we find your recordings at the Inside Health Apps? Yes, you can. Elise, great question. This will be recorded. You can find it there. I also will be putting it on my YouTube channel as well. I'll put these recordings there also, so you have two places that you can find it. So I'm just going to stop sharing here. I do thank everybody for being here. Again, I know after the busy holiday and New Year, and it's so nice to see all your faces. I will be back here the first Thursday of every month. So I don't know the exact date, but the first Thursday in February, we will be back here for another Thursday live. So thank you, everybody, for being here. It is really an honor. to work with each and every one of you. If you have any questions, you can always email me. Or show up next week or next month for the Thursday Live, and I hope I can answer all of your questions. So thank you again. Bye-bye. Until next time.